Hello and welcome to this episode of Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. And I am grateful to have with me today, Matt Wanty. Matt is the founder of Subroot. Subroot helps salespeople get more accounts with an outbound strategy that's custom tailored to their company's strengths and buyers. Matt is also the host of his new upcoming podcast, State of Outbound, and he's the author of not one, but two sales books. Most recently, I think he's got it on him, Smart Outbound, the Outbound Sales Journal. Matt, I can't wait to dive into these books, your sales secrets. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandon. I'm super excited to be here.
So, Matt, what we want to do is, a lot of people don't know who you are. I'd love for you to just give a quick bullet point of your background, where you've sold.
Okay. Well, I started out selling in logistics transportation for a company that no longer exists called Airborne Express. They were acquired by DHL several years ago. So that's where I grew up in sales. And I started out, just as a normal sales rep and worked my way up the ladder to the point where I was an elephant hunter. I was one of the company's best sales reps. They were putting me in the biggest deals. I was bringing in some of the biggest deals. And so that's where I grew up. It was a strategic selling format. And I was calling on companies anywhere from $500,000 a year to, 20 million a year.
Wow.
Brought in some really big deals over the course of my career there. And it was a great experience for me.
And in that logistics, what's the price point's anywhere from like $500,000 to 20 million. What's the sales cycle like for those deals?
Wow. I actually, the biggest deal I ever sold was about $8 million a year, and it turned in 6 weeks. We
no shit.
Yeah. 6
Super
weeks.
fast. How'd you get into that account?
I called the vice president of finance for 6 months.
Just straight.
So,
We're
going right to my secrets here.
Oh, okay, hold on. Okay, so
yeah.
We'll save it for that.
All right.
Okay, so you do the logistics startup that got acquired by DHL, and then what's after that?
So after that, I left and started my own business. I started a specialty manufacturing printing company. We did business with, most of our business came from 3M Company, which was another large contract that I sold, and I ran that business for 10 years. We were significantly affected by the Great Recession. So I eventually shut it down and then, started my journey to where I am right now, which is helping sales reps and companies with outbound sales, specifically messaging and outbound sales tactics. I'm also an author. I've written 2 books now, Smart Outbound, the Outbound Sales Journal is my latest book. It's basically a summary of my last couple of years working with and speaking with over 1,000 sales reps and outbound sales. In the book, I try to give people a summary or a summary of the current state of outbound sales. It also has some of the most effective outbound sales tactics that are working today. There's 3 chapters on sales messaging to help sales reps create their own sales messaging. And then I provide, cold email templates, sales messaging workbooks, cold call scripts.
It gets super tactical.
Yeah, it's everything that I know about outbound sales and how to succeed right now.
And you just literally documented it in the Smart Journal.
I did. It's
Smart Outbound.
Yeah, it started out as a guide for LinkedIn. I was going to use it as a marketing piece, and then it just got too long. And then I'm like,
yeah,
it's time to just make this a book.
Dude, that's awesome. Huge congrats. And by the way, what made you decide to get into, not a lot of salespeople write, what made you get into writing? Cold calling, and then the most recent one.
Yeah, I've always sort of been writing, but in 2015, I blogged the entire year as part of an SEO effort. So then I got the writing bug. And then in 2016, I actually went and worked for a technology company for that year, which then gave me a ton of content to write about. So when I left that job, I went and wrote Lost Art. And then I've been writing and participating in content on LinkedIn ever since.
That's so awesome. Yeah. And that's how we got connected, because I'm a big fan of a lot of your content, and just want to say congrats on, the success and the strategies that you've been sharing. They're really inspiring and they work, guys. So make sure you connect and follow Matt. I mean, the stuff that he's sharing, which we're going to get into. So I guess let's just get into it. Because it's funny. I used to run like an 1.5, 2-hour podcast interview. The only thing people care about are the secrets and what the hell can I execute right now today to increase sales. So
Absolutely.
Matt, I really want you to share your top 2 to 3 sales secrets. Let's just call it top 3 sales secrets.
Okay.
Save the best for last.
The best for last. Okay.
The best for last.
So the best, I think, is probably the simplest. I think right now in this current state, I think the number 3 secret is you need to have an omni-channel approach. Just going at one channel right now is only going to get you so far. Decision makers are participating in things here and there and there, but not everybody's doing everything. So if you're going to call people up, there's a certain percentage of decision makers that you're just never going to reach. If you're going to send cold emails, there's a certain percentage of decision makers that are never going to read them. Video messaging, the same thing. I think more decision makers are going to be open to watching videos. And then social media, there's only a certain percentage of decision makers on social media. So you really need to mix up your approach, and you need to find what's working for you. So number 2, I think this is one, when I talk to salespeople and sales leaders out there.
I love that too, by the way, the omni-channel approach. I think it makes total sense.
Yeah, it's really, I think
you don't go to war with, hey, this channel is better than that channel is better than this channel.
You got to find your mix, and it's really going to be dependent on what you're selling, your buying persona. There's going to be a lot of different factors. And then the final factor is you. I mean, what are you good at? Some people, I work with reps that just kill video messaging. They're really good. They come off as super personable. People, they get into the message. It resonates with them. And then, I work with people that are great at cold calling. They know how to create the dialogue. They know how to say the right thing. So you got to find what's working best for you. Okay. So
I love that.
So number 2, I think, is, and this one, when I talk to people about outbound sales, this usually comes up. It's so if someone's having a problem and they readjust this, they can rapidly improve their results. And it's targeting. You need to target the right people. If you're targeting the wrong prospects or the wrong decision makers within those companies, you're basically failing at step 1. And once you get that right, you could see a significant improvement in your outbound sales.
Get your target. Give me some examples. What do you mean exactly? So that the audience.
Yeah, targeting it. I think when you think about selling sales training, right? If I'm going out and trying to sell someone outbound sales training, I'm looking for people that are doing that. Not every sales org is even doing that nowadays. 2, I want to make sure they're cold calling, so I want to identify that before I spend a lot of time trying to prospect into a customer, just making sure they're a good fit. I think it's Brandon, it's so situational for every company out there, right? So I'm sure within Seamless, there are certain targets that you guys are like, okay, that's a good prospect. And then I'm sure you see certain other ones where you're like, no, they do this, they're not going to fit with what we're doing. So it's really important. There's so many salespeople out there that it's this, spray and pray approach where they're targeting people that are far less than ideal targets.
Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. But how do you figure out? Let's just go a little bit.
Oh, yeah, no, it's funny. I just had a post on this. I think when you think about targeting and identifying good prospects for a company, one of the biggest problems with it is companies aren't always great at teaching their sales reps how to do that, right? So the best thing the best advice that I can give anybody when it comes to this, start talking to the best salespeople at your company about it. Literally ask them, hey, is this a good prospect? Why is it a good prospect? Why not? If you do that, a dozen or 2 dozen times, you're going to have a really good perspective of what the ideal target looks like.
Awesome. I love it. Get your targeting right. Get your targeting on point. Would that be like the secret title there? Get your targeting on point?
Yeah. Yep. That works for me, man. But it's so important. And, I think one of the questions I ask people, especially if they say they've had sort of an epiphany with their outbound sales, is what makes the difference? And it usually is target. They usually pin it on targeting.
That's awesome. I love it. Makes sense.
So, and if you think about, your tool, your tool is basically built to help people do that. Right. So, and it's, those are the kind of things that people need to be tapping into to make sure they're getting it right.
Yeah. 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. You got to find the right contacts. You got to find the right company.
Yeah.
If you don't have the list, the life you want, the marriage you want, the houses, the cars, the customers, the investors, everything you want in this life, you got to have the list. You're just one list away. And if you don't have that list, you can't launch omni-channel, which is your first simplest secret.
Yep.
So this will be interesting. You got to have your targeting on point. You got to have omni-channel prospecting. What is your number one top sales secret?
My number one top sales secret is nothing new. You got to keep calling them. You can't stop calling. And I think, nowadays we're so built on these cadences or sequences that are set up for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. But the reality is some of these big deals, some of these ideal prospects, you got to keep pushing it. And I'm not talking about harassing. You got to be professionally persistent. You don't want to come off too needy and call them like every day or even every other day. Spread it out.
I'm writing that down. Professionally persistent. Keep going.
I'm stealing that from someone on LinkedIn, and I don't remember who it is, but it's
okay. I think we all just take it from each other. Right?
Yeah, that's true. But that is, that I think that's super important. And when I look back at some of the biggest things that I've done, it's all been months of work to sort of get in there and break through that first layer of rejection, which is something I talk about in Smart Outbound.
The first layer of rejection. And this ties into the deal that you closed, right? The largest deal, or one of the largest deals with 3M. You said, how did that deal go down again?
Yeah, it wasn't 3M. It was actually Clear Channel.
Nice.
What are they called now? iHeartRadio, something like that. It was back when they called Clear Channel, and I called the vice president of finance for 6 months. I got a hold of him after 6 months of calling him. And we had
or he just never got back to you.
Well, it's funny, man. This is a while ago, and back then we didn't have a
Seamless or whatever, right?
There was no Seamless. There was barely the internet, right? But we had a rule in our company: we didn't leave voicemails. We were not.
Oh, yeah. This is a great question. Okay, so why did you not leave voicemails, and do you leave voicemails now?
I do leave voicemails now. Back then, this was a really strict rule at our company. We did not leave voicemails. And I think part of it was sort of the idea that you need to keep calling. You got to have this conversation, right? So
I used to get in a battle with my VP of sales about this. We would go to battle all the time.
Really?
I was a big voicemail person. He was a big no voicemail person.
Right. So, I think with Airborne, the biggest reason they didn't want you to leave voicemails is because when we sold to people, we constantly needed to fight perception. So we had a previous bad reputation. I don't know if you've ever sold for a company that was sort of bad and then became good. So a lot of people, not,
but I feel like that would be tough.
It was tough. And we were competing against UPS and FedEx, which, made it even tougher, two of the biggest brands in the world. Right. But at the end of the day, we could save our customers a significant amount of money. And if you could just break through that perception barrier and have that real conversation, then their interest would go way up. So in order to change perception, you have to have a conversation. You have to talk to someone. You have to have these words and say, hey, you know what? Listen, we were not very good before, but we're really good now. It's why General Motors, General Electric, it's why all these big companies use our service now, because we can provide the same service that you're getting, but at a significantly lower price. So now I feel like I'm selling Airborne again, man. Don't bring me back.
But it makes sense. You're like, hey, if you've got a bad reputation, you're dropping voicemails. No one's going to call you back.
Yeah. So nowadays, I think voicemails are really effective to get people to take action. So if you leave a voicemail and try to push someone to an email, that can be a really effective strategy. Or if you leave a voicemail and say, hey, you know what, I sent you a LinkedIn connection. I'm hoping we can connect. Something like that. Those can be really effective voicemails. I think if you're out there trying to leave voicemails to get people to call you back, that might not be the best strategy nowadays because, come on, 85% of voicemails are never even touched, right? They're just deleted.
I have so many voicemails on my phone.
And how many do you listen to, Brandon?
Not very many.
Not very many. Now, when you're talking LinkedIn voice messages and LinkedIn video, that's a whole different thing. I think the percentage of people that are actually listening and watching those goes significantly up. So if you're gonna have a strategy like that, you might want to think about doing it through LinkedIn.
I love that. I love that. Wow. Well, there we go. We got it. So to summarize all three in your sentence, hit them real quick just for the audience if anyone's tuning in late.
Right. So three is omni-channel. 4 is get your targeting right, and 5, don't give up. Keep working, especially the ideal prospects. Keep your nose in there. Eventually, I was actually last week on Friday. I probably felt the most ignorant I've felt in a long time. I was listening to this podcast with Chet Holmes. Do you know who Chet Holmes is? Okay. Yeah. And I mean, the guy is just, he's like a genius, right? Way ahead of his time. And he basically, the way I understand it, he basically invented demand generation marketing, right? Or is one of the founders of it. But do you know how he sold it?
No, I do not.
He called people relentlessly over and over, months, years. And some of his biggest deals came after years of calling people. Just
hilarious.
It's
selling a digital marketing solution, and he's using outbound selling to make it happen.
Yep. And that was his most effective strategy that he used through his career. So I think when the marketers are selling with the phone, I think where the phone drives results because it creates action. No one likes people sort of periodically calling them, right? They want to understand why that's happening. They want it to stop happening, right? So there's a lot of motivation on the other side to resolve the matter, but you got to call. You got to call. If you're just going to send an email, what's going to motivate them to even read it, right? So phone calls can actually get people to read emails.
Boom. There we go. I love it. Matt, awesome 3 secrets. And we wrap up the show with rapid fire questions. So get ready. Audience tuning in. This show is sponsored by Seamless.AI, the world's best sales leads. Find cell phones and emails for anyone in the world. You can get Seamless.AI for free at www.seamless.ai. Thank you guys for sponsoring us, investors, you name it. And coming back. So rapid fire questions. I'm ready. So you ready? We'll just throw them out there and then let me know what you think just right off the tip. What's your favorite habit?
My favorite habit, I think this is sad. It's writing. I just constantly writing, I think.
And you started that habit how long ago?
I wrote a lot in high school, and then I did it, most of my writing over the course of the 20 years between this was emails, right? So I think effective email writing is a really important part of,
you don't hear a lot of salespeople that love writing, it's like, I hate writing.
I don't know that I love it. I just constantly do it. Yeah. But awesome. I think I like it when it's going well, but I mean, I'm sure you've had times where you're trying to write content for LinkedIn and you're like, I got nothing. I feel
like every day I'm doing shit I don't want to do. Every day, it's like, I want to do this, but you just got to do it to get to where you want to go. Okay, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book
could be on anything, any topic, anything. What's your favorite book?
Man, it's funny. I think I recommended this book to you, Messy Middle. That's such a great book for and I don't know if Subroot's actually, there's a technology in the background of Subroot that's been sort of off and on, sort of like the beginning years of, I think, Seamless, right? So that book is, if you're building technology, you need to read that book, especially the middle section. It has some really important information.
Oh, yeah. And what is the book about? Just so the audience is aware.
The book is about building technology. Scott Belsky, it's I think he is with, he works for a huge company now. He had a startup and they sold, and he wrote the book. It's a really good book.
And what is the book called again for the audience?
Messy Middle.
Messy Middle. Yeah. Awesome. Next question. How do you stay motivated?
I feel like I've always been driven. I grew up an athlete, and I don't know if that's part of it, but as an entrepreneur, I mean, any entrepreneur out there is a very driven person. This is someone that's getting up and doing work that they may be working for free for months or even years.
Yeah.
And then eventually, you get somewhere. But so, now I have a 3-year-old, so it's really easy for me to stay motivated when it comes to, trying to make sure that I'm providing for my family and my career is headed in the right direction.
It's amazing. What sport were you an athlete in?
I played football and basketball.
Sweet. That's awesome. And then on the flip side, how do you get unstuck when you feel like you're down in the dumps or stuck? What do you do?
That's a really great question. I think you take a break. You got to take a break sometimes. I think sometimes when I am tackled with a big problem, just getting away from it for a minute is the key to solving it. So, and maybe you're watching football, or you're hanging out with your kids or whatever you're doing. And then all of a sudden the idea pops in your head like, oh, that's how I figured this out. Right. So sometimes you got to get away. And I think, and Brandon, you've probably struggled this through you, Chris. As an entrepreneur, you can work way too much, right? So you can spend every second of the day working. And it's really important not to do that. Exercise, eat healthy, enjoy your life. You gotta, there's two things going on, life and entrepreneurship. So you gotta step back and just relax sometimes.
That's awesome. Next question. Who are you following right now?
Who am I following right now? Chris Walker is a really good source. Us sales guys are trying to learn about marketing, right? And the marketing guys, well, they don't really want to learn about sales, but we're always trying to learn about marketing. So I'm really in tune to some of the people that are giving out some really good marketing information. I think
he does his self studio tips, right? With the camera.
Didn't you have Chris on your show?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's shooting it I think it's in Chicago, Boston. I forget.
He's in Boston.
Yeah, he's got the cool skyline and he's shooting the videos. Yeah,
he's got really cool videos. The information that he shares is just really vital for someone like myself, and I really appreciate the content he's putting out there for sure.
Awesome. Last question. What are you grateful for right now?
What am I grateful for? My family, my wife, my daughter, just being alive. Not being in some kind of bad part of life, right? I'm thankful for my girls, and just LinkedIn too, man. I actually just wrote a post about this. I'll be posting it later this week. I'm really thankful for my network. It's just constant messages back. I try to put out as much as I can. Part of it is marketing for us, right, Brandon? We're marketers. We're trying to get ourselves known, sell our books, sell our companies, whatever that is. But at the same time, you get so much feedback that's positive that it's really nice, and I'm really thankful for that.
That's awesome. Well, Matt Wanty, founder of Subroot, also the author of 2 sales books, most recent Smart Outbound, the Outbound Sales Journal. Thank you for joining us on Sales Secrets, our book, our show. You can pick up a copy on Amazon. Just Google Sales Secrets on Amazon and it will come right up. Also, you can tune into the podcast and show at secretsalesbook.com, or searching iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Sales Secrets. Matt, where can the audience follow you, connect with you, learn more?
You can follow my LinkedIn. I post almost daily, every weekday. I'll post some type of content. You can find my book on Amazon.com. I'm going to have an Audible, actually 2 Audibles coming out in December. One for the Law Start.
Did you record it?
Yeah, the Law Start's in process right now, and I'm just about to finish the Smart Outbound Audible, and they should both be available by Christmas. So I'm hoping.
Amazing. Yeah, it's crazy how long Audible takes to get the damn books live.
It does. It takes like 20 days, I think, on a typical turn. So yeah, it's but I get a lot of requests from people saying, hey, when's this Audible coming out? So after a couple of years of asking me for the Law Start, they just stopped asking after a while, and then finally I made one. And but I'm getting Smart Outbound done right now. So
that's amazing. Well, Matt Wanty, thank you so much for the time. Everyone, thank you for tuning in, and make sure that you smash that subscribe button, follow button for more, where we're dropping daily sales secrets, strategies, scripts, tools, and tactics to help you maximize your sales. Thank you, and talk soon.